Welcome to the Vertical MRO Alerts, brought to you by Bell. Here's a quick look at notable service directives recently released from Bell Aircraft.
All right, good day, everybody, and welcome to the MRO Alerts presented by Bell. My name is Marc Dubé. I'm a Product Support Engineering Manager for Bell. I'm here today with Mr. Mike Vautour. Mike is one of our Product Support Engineering lead with us, so directly working with field issues and we're bringing them to program whenever we have to address something. So we have released some service directives recently, and we're here today to talk about our main subject, Mike, is the ThixO SYN Grease.
Yes.
So can you give us a little bit maybe of history on the ThixO SYN Grease at Bell?
Sure. The grease itself was something that we investigated quite some time ago, looking at solutions to resolve some of the field issues that we were having with Brunelling on the main rotor hub assemblies of the 26L series. Since we've implemented that grease, it has helped out a lot on the field issues we've been seeing.
Yep.
But in recent past, we've had some issues with the acquisition of the grease because its composition has become unavailable now. So
yeah, which kind of brings us to the next question. So what's our current situation with the ThixO SYN? I think you've kind of touched on it a little bit now, just there. So I guess the grease is now obsolete. So
yeah, correct. Because there's a component within the material composition of the grease that's no longer available, we're looking to see if we can find other solutions to be able to replace the grease because it's not procurable anymore.
Yeah, right. So we've been working on that for quite a few months, I believe. So maybe one thing to clarify, we're talking ThixO SYN Grease. That does not really touch the ThixO number 2 grease, which is a little bit different application, obviously. So you've touched on it. Yeah, we've kind of were advised by the supplier that recipe, whatever an ingredient was causing issues with the recipe, no longer procurable, no longer available. So obviously that has an effect on our aircraft. Which aircraft model do we use ThixO SYN, Mike?
Quite a few models. We've got the 26A and B series. We've got all the 26Ls. All the derivatives, the LL1, L3, L4, L1 pluses, L3 pluses, 407, as well as the recent 505.
Yeah, and most of those models use it in greasing application, but obviously ThixO SYN can be used as a greasing application, but also as a corrosion preventive compound also.
Yes.
Yeah. What have we done so far? Like we've been talking, like I said, for the last few months, where the supplier has advised Bell basically, and since then we've done quite a few things to come out or to address that situation. So can you describe a little bit, maybe let's start with which grease we've kind of looked at as a replacement, because this was kind of a rush for our customers, obviously.
Yeah, sure. To give a little background for the operators and customers that don't see all this stuff that goes behind the curtains that we do in the background, we have tried different compositions of the ThixO SYN with different ingredients to see if we could find that new magical blend that would be able to replace the current ThixO SYN mixing. But all those testing that we've done haven't been able to pass all the requirements of the standard for the grease.
So we've started working with the current supplier, basically manufacturer of the grease, and like Mike said, I mean, there's a lot of testing of variants of that recipe that has been tested, and it didn't pass really. So,
yeah, correct.
So after that, where did we go? What was our decision going, knowing that we couldn't get a grease approved, basically?
Well, we know that the Mobile 28 was already an approved grease in the original configurations of the assemblies. Mm-hmm. So that was our short-term immediate backup plan, that would be the grease that we would go back to while we still continue working on to find a solution that ThixO SYN benefits brought to the grease standard.
So Mobile 28 was already in most of our manuals, has been used in the past. Obviously, we have a preference for ThixO SYN, but like you said, it's something that is already approved and already in most of our manuals, which is kind of why we went that route. So
exactly.
What tests have we done, and can we explain a little bit maybe to our customers what's our process at Bell? So, okay, we've selected the Mobile 28. Where did we start after that?
So going back to Mobile 28 because we wanted to reduce the amount of pain for our customers of switching greases. We actually did some additional testing on purge greasing of the components.
Because we've always said in the past, like that Mobile 28 is, ThixO SYN is thicker than Mobile 28. So we had concern initially with purging ThixO SYN with Mobile 28. So
correct. And because we've previously released technical bulletins initially when we released the ThixO SYN, where we allowed application of the grease, but it required disassembly of components and stuff like that to be able to get the grease, the old grease, the Mobile 28 fully out, and then apply the ThixO SYN. But
which at that time was okay, because switching from one grease to the other grease when the grease is available is a lot easier. But in this situation, we kind of pushed it a little bit more. So so what did we do? The first test we did is basically send somebody to the BTA.
Yeah, we sent somebody to our training academy from our product support engineering team here. And they basically went through all the steps of the components for the main rotor hub, the swash plate, pitch link assemblies, tear pitch change, and was doing some validation of purging the ThixO SYN Grease with the Mobile 28 to see firstly if it was doable. And see what kind of mixtures were coming out after X number of purging that we did on the components.
Which depends on the component that you're actually purging.
Right, exactly.
Right. So those tests were, I believe, successful. So we were able to prove that you can push out the ThixO SYN with X amount of Mobile 28. But then the next test that we had to do was a compatibility test. Can you explain what that is exactly, Mike, a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. So with the purging of the ThixO SYN Grease using the Mobile 28, there's obviously going to be some mixing ratios between the two greases. You're not going to get 100% purging immediately. After several purges. Yes, you'll get to a 100% Mobile 28, but in some of the testing that we were doing, we're gathering samples of those greases and running them through all the material specification testing to validate that mixing of the greases would still result in acceptable parameters to the standards.
So, which kind of brings to the question that, okay, well, is it compatible or not? I guess all the testing that we've done, it depends, would be the preferred answer, I believe. So, and what the compatibility tests have shown is that the more Mobile 28 you have, the less compatible it is with ThixO SYN. Because in the past, I believe you were involved at that time. We kind of did the reverse when we converted the components to ThixO SYN. We were pushing Mobile 28 with ThixO SYN, which the compatibility was a little bit better at that time. So,
yeah, correct.
So we did compatibility tests, we did the purging tests, and with those, I guess the compatibility tests kind of didn't pass as expected. So what's the next thing that we did here in Mirabel, actually?
For the I guess the current production, we're still receiving parts with ThixO SYN,
Yeah.
but for the fielded fleet, we've been working at revising our current service bulletins that we have out there. I shouldn't say service bulletins, but our technical bulletins
Yeah.
for the application of ThixO SYN to provide instructions to the operators and maintainers to be able to switch back to Mobile 28 with the least amount of impact to them that we could.
Exactly.
So we did do some revisions to the bulletins, which were released recently. And we also published an information letter advising our customers of the current situation, what we've been doing, as well as the bulletins that have came out.
So after doing the purging and the compatibility tests, like Mike said, we revised, we actually created new technical bulletins to allow the conversion. And those tests were based, since the compatibility tests didn't pass as expected. Those instructions were actually driven by flight tests that we actually did here in Mirabel.
Yes, correct. We did the purging on an aircraft here, flew some hours on it, gathered some more grease samples when we were doing the purging to look at the mixing ratios, had those tested, and continued doing more flights and things like that on the various components. We were doing the testing on a 505 because it's one of the ones that are most affected in the number of components.
Yeah.
For example, we've got the main rotor hub, the swash plate, the pitch links, but on the 407, we've only got the pitch links that use the ThixO SYN. So the impact is a little bit less on that aircraft as compared to the 206s or even the 505.
Yeah, and we really needed some sort of way to purge and to allow purging. Obviously, we said it before, a little bit earlier, some of the components you can still disassemble, clean them out if you prefer, and then reassemble everything with Mobile 28. But the goal here was to reduce the impact on the operator fleet, so on customers, to make sure that it can return to Mobile 28 as fast as possible with less work as possible. So we kind of talked about the technical bulletins. Technical bulletins obviously have instructions, each components, how many pumps you have to do. We've also added second purge within 1 to 10 hours in most application. So again, Mike said 505, 206 series, 407. One other thing we did is we played on intervals. So can you explain a little bit the reason behind that, Mike?
Yeah, because the testing for the compatibility has been showing us that the results are not fully satisfactory. We've had to reduce the intervals on the flight hours and calendar schedules for the greasing of the components.
Yeah.
And we've done that because we just don't know what the results are going to show us.
Yes. So it's kind of a way for us to continue the testing that we're doing, and we're still continuing doing additional testing behind the scene. But also it gives a solution for customers. So obviously the technical bulletins, if you have anything that you find either in the grease or any components that are wearing out prematurely or something like that, you need to report it to product support engineering. So productsupport@bellflag.com. But again, that reduction in the intervals is, I'm going to put an emphasis on that, is temporary. Hopefully we can get back to the initial intervals as soon as possible. But they are a reduction and they will affect obviously your schedule with your aircraft. So do you, maybe a question so our customers can understand the situation. So if you still have ThixO SYN Grease on hand, do you actually have to convert your components right now, Mike?
No, absolutely not. If you do have some and you can still continue operating with the ThixO SYN and you've got sufficient quantities to continue using it, then yeah, that's totally fine. Absolutely. It's not a mandated change, but once that ThixO SYN runs out, that's where customers are going to be stuck looking for solutions, and hopefully we'll be able to have them in place for them when that comes.
All right. That's good to know because, I mean, if you don't have to do it right now, there's no impact really. But if you're out of grease, like you said, that's an option for you to return back to Mobile 28. So we've discussed where it comes from, what happens, what we did. Maybe one thing to highlight here also, we kind of said that in most occasions it's used as a greasing for greasing components. Can it be used somewhere else? Like we kind of mentioned CPC, but I believe maybe the 412, I believe, has in one of the assembly procedure where you actually we're calling out for ThixO SYN specifically. So in that case, what we would say is we recommend to contact product support engineering again, and we'll give you an alternative that you can use up until we can actually revise our manuals and add that alternative in the manual. So
yeah, exactly.
Anything else, Mike, you think our customers should know related to the ThixO SYN? Go ahead.
So we have taken some questions from operators about the purging process, because with the reduction in the intervals that are required, if somebody wanted to, let's say, take apart a main rotor hub assembly, totally clean it up and put the Mobile 28 in, they'd go back to using the regular greasing intervals because there's no intermixing of the greases. So if somebody actually wanted to do that, they could. There's a couple of exceptions that you can't disassemble to be able to completely clean them out, like with the universal bearings on the pitch links or the trunnion bearings on the main rotor hub assembly. So in those cases, you're going to be stuck doing the shorter intervals until we can validate that the intermixing of the greases will be allowed to get back to the regular greasing intervals.
And you're kind of touching a good point there, which we maybe want to expand on. So those components, universal bearings, trunnion bearings, if you purchase a new bearing, depending on the dash number that you're purchasing, it might have ThixO SYN in it. So I believe we're addressing that on the supplier level. But still, if you purchase new parts, they may have ThixO SYN, which if you install them on your aircraft, you will have to comply with the technical bulletin if you don't have ThixO SYN Grease anymore. So
yeah, correct. So in our current production, the parts that we're receiving, like the main rotor hubs and the swash plates and pitch link assemblies and things like that, we're still receiving them with ThixO SYN because their suppliers still have sufficient quantities to be able to do that. But eventually they're also going to run out and they're going to have to switch over back to Mobile 28. Yeah. So eventually we'll start receiving new components in production as well for spares with the Mobile 28 installed.
All right. That's very good to know. So that's kind of our solution we have right now, which has been released a week or so ago or 2 weeks ago. Going forward, what are we doing, Mike, maybe just to let our customers, I know we can't promise anything, but I mean, we're still working on it. Obviously, we want to increase those interval back where they were. But what else are we doing about?
So not only are we going to be gathering information from our operators that do a lot of flying, we're going to gather information from them relevant to the greasing and if they're seeing any kind of side effects to the mixing, because one of the things we're not sure about either is for aircraft that have been purge greased with the Mobile 28, what kind of effect it has on the intermixing of the greases if the aircraft isn't flying a lot.
Yeah. That's kind of why we're reducing the calendar interval.
Exactly. That's why the calendar time was reduced.
All right.
But also in the background, in our mechanical labs, we're going to be doing testing with components of intermixing of the greases, gathering additional data so that we can try to get back to that regular interval that we had previously. And we're trying to do that as quickly as possible as we can so that we can let's say, increase the DMCs on that.
Yeah.
Or reduce the DMCs on our aircraft for our customers.
And going forward, obviously, we had a lot of customers and internal customers and Bell employees suggesting other grease, which could be used. But the reason why we went to Mobile 28 again it's because it was already in our manuals. It was already approved. Why are you limited to Mobile 28? Well, we only tested the compatibility for Mobile 28 with ThixO SYN. We have not tested the other greases that can be used. And I believe the C code is Series 001, if I'm correct, Mike. But going forward, obviously, we'll be looking at other greases and other solutions. The ThixO SYN was our preferred grease, but and we know Mobile 28 with some false burning can happen, especially in the main rotor hubs on the 505 and 206. But going forward, hopefully we can have another grease approved. That's going to take time. That's not something that happens on a short time period. It takes quite a few months to qualify another grease. So.
No, exactly. And I mean, that's one of the particularities about the ThixO SYN. It's not a mill standard specification.
No.
It's certified under a Bell specification. So finding greases that are able to meet our standards is a little bit challenging. We do have 2 other greases that we're going to be doing testing with.
Yep.
That are mill standard specifications. But one of the primary reasons we had to create our own is that no other standards meet our challenges. But hopefully one of these 2 other greases might be able to be one of those solutions that will be acceptable to us that we could use in our components.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. Anything else you think we should discuss with our customers, or are we forgetting something?
No, I mean, one of the important things to make our customers aware of is if you do have any questions, please reach out to our product support engineering team, because there may be stuff that we don't think of that customers experience that we have never come across before, and we'll be more than pleased to take your calls or your emails, and we'll try and figure stuff out with you to get you the solutions that you need.
All right. That's a very good point, Mike. Thanks for bringing that one again. So that's all for us today. Thanks a lot for listening, and keep flying, Bell.
This has been a Vertical MRO Alert brought to you by Bell. As always, please make sure to look at the service directive for complete information.